Behind every amazing flavor is an amazing human who has perfected their craft. Welcome to Flavors Unknown, a behind-the-scenes look at new flavors and the chefs, pastry chefs, and bartenders who create them, with your host, Emmanuel.
Imagine a place where you can listen to trendy chefs and bartenders sharing their secrets behind the scenes, where they are talking about their paths to success, where you can get tricks from the kitchen or from behind the bar. In fact, you can get it all here on my podcast, Flavors Unknown. I am your host, Emmanuel Roche. Thank you very much for listening today. Every other week, I interview chefs, pastry chefs, and bartenders to discover their secrets behind the scenes. Today is episode 17, and as usual, you can find the show notes at flavorsunknown.com. Click on the episode page. Today, my guest is another chef from New Jersey. And even if I live in the Garden State, I usually have guests on the show that comes from different parts of the country. But when you have a chef that has a vision and that likes to push the boundaries when it comes to his creativity, and then when you are leaving their restaurants, you want to come back for more, then I know that I have the right guest, for my show. So on the episode number 6 of Flavors Unknown, I had Chef Erin Ryan from Common Lot in Millburn, New Jersey. And today, my chef is Sam Freund from White Birch in Flanders. Hi, Chef. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's really great to have you on Flavors Unknown. We are, in fact, having this recording face-to-face, which is a little bit, unique and unusual. You reach out to me through the Instagram, Flavors Unknown, and you were, listening to it. You thought that it was something interesting and you wanted to be, part of it. So thank you very much.
No, thank you for having me. Like I said, I'm very intrigued by what you're doing for the culinary world, getting some young chefs out there. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I read into an interview that you have given not too long ago that you use the words sexiness of flavor. And I'm just curious what those words, meant to you.
Sexiness of flavors. So most people, when they go out to high-end restaurants and fine dining, first thing when the food hits the table, they eat with their eyes. So first, you always want to make sure that the food does look sexy. But when it comes to sexiness of flavors, the meaning behind that is when you intertwine different cuisines as far as Asian influences and French, which I've studied, and Spanish and Italian. You can mix and match flavor profiles to create a sexy dish. That's what I really mean by that, sexiness of flavors. A lot of people throw the word umami out. I love it. It's bitter, sweet, salty, And I think that the sexiness of flavors are all of that, is when you can intertwine those different cuisines, which I do. I've studied French. I'm Italian, so I love Italian food. When I was in Colorado, I studied some Asian cuisine, and I started really playing with different flavor profiles and just started really creating my own dishes. So I think it was just pretty cool.
So is it the complexity about the sexiness, or is it about the global influence?
I would say more global influence. You got to be careful, especially with Asian cuisine, because there's strong flavors. In the French with techniques and stuff, you do have to be careful because certain things can overpower certain things. So when you have that balance, I think it's a beautiful thing.
So we are here today, at your restaurant, White Birch in Flanders, New Jersey. For the people that don't know where it is, it's located on 206, and it's somehow somewhere in between 78 and Route 80. And for the people living in New York, it's a little bit more than an hour, from New York. So how would you describe the concept of White Birch for us?
Well, White Birch, the concept behind it is I really wanted to utilize what was in the surrounding area. So it's definitely a farm-to-table restaurant. There are so many farms in this area that, most restaurants around here from my understanding, don't utilize what we have in our backyard. And I really wanted to bring something to this area as far as a farm to table restaurant. Everything from my decor to working with local farms, and really no one around here is doing that. So I think that's really, people get excited about that now.
But why specifically this location?
Well, this location, ironically, was the first location that I looked at for my other restaurant, Slam and Scratch Kitchen, about 5 years ago. The concept, what I want to do down there, didn't really fit the match of this restaurant. And I literally said, if this restaurant is here in 4 to 5 years, I'm going to jump all over it. You know, ironically, this place is very sentimental to me. My parents actually used to come here when it was the Bartley House in the 70s and 80s. So it kind of is like a full swing. I feel like I should be here and need to be here because of that reason. So it's a very special thing. It's kind of crazy how that worked out.
So they were coming here on a date?
They did. They actually lived here, funny. Basically. So yeah, I mean...
So full circle.
Full circle. Like I said, I feel like this place was meant to be mine.
So I read somewhere that you are a culinary artist, deeply passionate about creating experiences for his guests that will leave palates wanting more. So it's really an ambitious, objective. So how do you do that?
I feel like it's quite simple, really. I love change. I'm not one who's complacent in I have to have staples or I can never take this off my menu. Some people don't like that at all. I've had a couple customers kind of backlash a little bit saying, why would you take something so great off your menu? Well, because it's not just about one person. It's about the experience as a whole. So you can constantly create seasonal items and leaving people wanting more when they come back and they see something different. It's basically taking people outside their box, like experience something new. And also I like to bring in new stuff all the time, just not for me, but for people who work for me, constantly learning new ingredients. I think it's important to showcase all that you know and also to constantly keep learning. I just want people to really understand the depth of flavor of all food and not just I just want short ribs every time I come here. Take the next step, take that leap of confidence and try something new that you never tried before. And most of the time people are like, wow, I wish I did that more. And I think the reason why we've been so great here is because there's nothing really like this around here. Like people aren't challenging the consumer, and that's what I'm all about. Challenging the consumer, making them want to come back more for new dishes, new excitement, and new creations.
And you feel that the customer in the area, are open to it. They have an educated palate, for them to appreciate the level of cuisine that you are offering?
I think that's the risk with the reward. I think taking that risk of trusting your own palate first, putting it out on the plate. I do. I think that I can really, really get people to love white birch as for who we are. Because like I said, I'm not going to do a braised short rib in the middle of the summer. I mean, but if somebody wants that, to me, it just doesn't make sense. I want to constantly challenge you. So I do. I really think that the people have taken a real liking to white birch and what we're doing here.
So let's go back in time a little bit. And I'm curious, how did you get started? If you can walk us, through it.
I hope we have enough time.
Give me the short version.
Short version. My uncle had a really cool luncheonette actually in Succossana, New Jersey. And it was a breakfast lunch spot. And at 12 years old, it was a family business. So we were bussing tables, washing dishes. I was constantly looking around the restaurant, constantly eating. I loved food as a kid. And I would always cook breakfast for my sister and brother. And their friends would they come over. And then at 14, the summer when I turned 14, my uncle kind of turned to me and said, do you want to work the flat top today? And I said, yeah, I would love to learn. Ever since then, I just loved cooking. I'll be honest with you, at 14, 15, I had no idea where it would bring me. I'm so grateful that I got introduced to this industry at such a young age. I think everybody should work in this industry at least once in their life to really know, because everyone has to eat, right? So everyone should learn and experience the back of the house of how it really works. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Me, I don't know anything else what I would rather do than what I'm doing now. So that's how I really got started in my uncle's restaurant.
And then did you go in culinary school,
Yeah,
after?
so then after my uncle's luncheonette at 19, I kind of left home and hit the big city, New York. And I went to the Art Institute in New York City for a culinary arts program in hospitality management. And I was in school. I was so grateful to land a job with 11 Madison Park and Danny Meyer. Then the real stuff happened to me.
That's a great start.
Yeah,
Indeed.
That was a great start. I'll never forget my first day. They threw a 40-pound tuna in front of me, and I had no idea what to do with it at 19. I'll never forget that, sitting in 11 Madison Park kitchen, trying to figure out how the hell to butcher this tuna. And I butchered it. But yeah, I mean, that's a really quick rundown of how I really got started. Then I was very fortunate to work with some great people.
Were your mentor?
I would say I have a couple mentors in the industry. As I grew older and started learning more and more, especially in New York, I would definitely say Australian chef Craig Hobson really kind of took me under his wing and showed me the flair. Really, the food side of it really made me understand and challenged me, taught me techniques. And when I went out to Colorado, probably my biggest mentor is Shoigard. He really explained the business aspect of it, and he let me launch to open up the first restaurant I ever opened for him, which was called Tag Raw Bar. We won Best New Restaurant in Denver. And then after that, we opened up a Tag Burger Bar. We were the best burger bar in Denver. So Troy really kind of took me underneath his wing, which I still talk to him today. He's just a great, great chef, great guy to know.
So what did you learn from him?
From him, he really showed me the Asian cuisine of my culinary. So, and also the business aspect of it. He always said how great of a cook and chef that I was, but to be successful as a restaurateur, you'd have to know the whole thing, not just the food. And, I kept blowing. I was like, yeah, okay. But then I really quickly realized when I opened up Slamwich that everything he was telling me and showing me, again, took into fruition and just really opened my eyes like, wow, like everything he was telling me, I'm actually going through right now. So I kind of leaned on him a little bit, made some phone calls to him when I needed to, and to pick me back up, to help me get through it. This says a lot about someone who has 14 restaurants. He still picks up my phone calls and still shoots me text messages. How am I doing? That just says a lot. In this industry, you're with these people more than your own family. And I could literally say he's family to me. He's definitely my number one mentor for sure.
Most of your ingredients come from local farmers and suppliers that are located, and I think you said like 8-mile radius.
Correct.
Like around the restaurant. So what does this concept represent in terms of opportunities, but as well, I guess, limitations?
Well, obviously in the winter, it's tough because the farm's shut down. But, when it comes to vegetables and stuff, they could be preserved and pickled that you can utilize on your menu. We do fermentations, pickling, preserving to utilize that. But, we are in New Jersey.
The farm state or the garden state.
The garden state. I'm telling you, it's like I said previous, even people in general, to not support our local farms. I mean, without them, our restaurants are nothing. They're just not. And I think it's important to support local farms and support local companies as well, because you're showcasing how hard that they work. I mean, I go up to Ort Farms right up the street last fall, and I was pulling stuff out of the ground with them. I mean, it's amazing. So I'm really looking forward to the next couple of weeks when the farms start opening, start building those relationships again, and start with the spring menu, which is coming soon. So it's going to be really, really nice.
And you can have access to any kind of produce, I'm guessing from veggies, of course, but meat and protein.
Yeah, so I'm actually trying to work with a couple lamb farms, pig farms, talk to a farmer in Peapack, Gladstone, who's got about 77 acres, does hogs, cows. I think we are actually, White Birch is going to be buying a cow this year and try to do a dinner at the end of the summer. There are limitations because most farms do your, standard stuff, zucchinis, squashes, things like that. We work with a couple farms, though. Let It Grow Farms did a couple plots for just white birch. So they bring a seed catalog. We pick out what we want for the restaurant, and then they would plant it for us, which that alone, again, says a lot about this industry. It's a full team effort. I mean, the more we support them, they're going to support us.
And how do you control like the quality? Because I that's great to have a concept that leverage local ingredients and so on. But how do you balance? How do you make sure the quality is at the level that you expect, for your cuisine?
When you get produce from purveyors, not from the farms, honestly, you don't know who's handling it, right? You just don't. And then it goes on a truck, it gets banged around. I get it. But with these local farms, I can literally pick out these things myself. So this spring, summer, and fall, me and my crew will go to these farms and pick them out ourselves. So I know exactly how quality they are, how much I need. I like to taste it. I mean, it's a full in, like we're all in. So that's like the biggest thing. Where if I call my purveyor during the winter, sometimes things are ruined, bad, I got to send it back. But when I go to the farm and I can hand pick things, I know they're going to be great.
Obviously, you are used to select high quality and fresh ingredients. What would be your advice for a home cook when it comes to ingredient sourcing?
Definitely support local farmers, honestly. I think that a lot of people do farmers markets, and then each week you pick up, if it's like a bundle of kale, some turnips, cucumber, and you're supporting the local agriculture. And I think for the people in this area, a lot of people do that. The more people who support that local farms, the better off we are for restaurants. The busier they are, the busier we are. I just wish more restaurants did this around here, I'm actually benefiting from it because I'm really the first restaurant to do it around here.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think they aren't doing it?
I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work to go to these farms, build relationships, but it's effort. It's passion. That's what you have to survive in this industry, I have it.
So let's talk a little bit about your creative process. Where does your inspiration come from?
I like to call myself an old soul. I love old school technique cooking. One of my favorite chefs ever is Marco Pierre White. I look back at these chefs, the Robichons and all these guys, like back then, they didn't have what we have now. They didn't have the tools that we had in the kitchen now. They just didn't. And people were amazed by that food. So it's like, my creativity sometimes just comes when it comes. I usually, as you see here, the Flavor Bible, one of the best books ever. What if I'm stuck on something? I open this up and just things start just coming. Food's endless. It just is. The amount of creativity that you can provide with food is endless. And, I follow so many chefs that are doing so many amazing things. It's like, man, I still get impressed by even local chefs in Jersey. Like it's amazing what New Jersey restaurants are putting out there right now. There's a lot of great restaurants in Jersey and like top-notch chefs. And I'm just happy to be considered one of them. So the creative process, I could be literally sleeping in the middle of the night, wake up and think of something. It kind of just happens.
But does it come from the produce, the ingredients, the technique, travel memory?
Yes, a little bit of everything. Like, obviously, I'm a seasonal chef. Like, when spring comes, I want all spring ingredients. When summer comes, I want summer. So that's that constant change. I also do like a little foraging. So, we'll be picking wild ramps out in the woods in a couple of weeks, which I can't wait. I also do like to provide some of my old dishes when I first started in New York 10 years ago. I think that's cool and then revamp them. But the creative process, like I said, it's almost endless of when I come up with things.
So how do you introduce your global flair and touch that you at the beginning of the interview, like the Asian touch.
Again, I am depending on the season. So if I use like a raw fish dish, I like to use some Asian cuisine because it just kind of just goes hand in hand. Like my snapper dish that I had on the menu, that was very Spanish forward. So if you see on my menu, I do think it's kind of like a global menu. I have a little Asian, a little Spanish, Italian with my fresh pasta, French technique cooking, so it's just.
So let's take your pork belly, for instance. What I believe from all the pork belly dishes I have tasted around the country.
This is recording, right?
Yes, you can listen to it. Is the best I ever had. So
thank you.
Can you explain a little bit what was the creative process behind it?
So I first got introduced to pork belly, again, early 20s in New York City. I just thought it was so cool. Like, oh my God, I'm about to eat a belly of a pig. Like, how cool is that? Over the years, I've messed up a lot. I think when you mess up certain things, that's how you learn. Failure, right? So once we opened Slamwich, I really got into the curing of meats, smoking meats, because that's what we do down there. So when we started messing around with the recipes for our pork belly, believe it or not, we knocked it out of the park first round. So the process behind the pork belly, we cure it for about 6 days in a white birch cure, rinse it off. After that, we smoke it for 2 hours. We use applewood from a local apple farm, which is phenomenal. I use the same applewood for Slamwich as well. Smoke that for about 2 hours. And then we cook it in pork stock or chicken stock if we have it. And then for about 4 hours until it's super tender. Now, to me, this is the most important part about my pork belly. I press my pork belly. I like to compact it down so it's all even. And then you put weight on it. So for 24 hours and it becomes cold and it's all even. All the juices go back into it. The excess fat kind of gets out because sometimes pork belly can be really fatty. And I believe when you press it, there's plenty of fat that goes through the pork belly where you're not going to lose it all.
But how do you get the crispy top? Because one aspect that I really love in a dish is the contrast of texture between, like the meat part and then, the seared, crunchy.
Yeah, so when we pick it up on the pickup, put it skin side down, pinch of oil in there, and just render out that fat content right out until it gets to be really crispy and succulent. I believe that you had the pork belly with the saffron aioli, the Peruvian potato. Right now, our new pork belly dish is beluga lentils, mirepoix with a bacon maple sauce on it and with poached pear.
Where's a sample?
Oh, I can get you one. But again, it's a process. It's about a week process for start to finish. And that's like, that's that patience in food, it takes time. And, the first time I did it, I only cured it for 2 days and I didn't think I had enough cure. The next time was 3. The next time was 4. And I found out the more I cured it, the more flavor it had. So it's trial and error, just like everything.
So I know we said that we will talk about, one dish, but I would love to hear you talk about another staple of your menu, which is in the appetizer section, which is the onion tart. It's not a big dish, but it's very complex. There's a lot of taste. It's layered. There's a lot of texture, as well, experiences, in that dish.
My amazing pastry chef, Mel, she makes an awesome pie crust. Awesome. So we take her pie crust, par-bake them, and in the onion tart, we use awesome cipollini onions, Gruyere cheese, fresh thyme, garlic confit, and we make our mixture. And then we just kind of bake them real, it's almost quiche-ish. I don't like to call it quiche because it's really, to me, it's more than that. What's cool is that we do these crispy parsnip chips on top for texture as well. A little frisee salad, toasted pine nuts. And then on the bottom, which is kind of hidden, is that charred onion puree, which is a little sweet element too. So it's just, I needed a vegetarian dish. Ironically, when I was creating the first menu, this is where I kind of struggled for one more vegetarian dish. And I remember that we did a mushroom tart at One If by Land, Two If by Sea when I worked there. I said, well, I have mushrooms here and I want that. I said, let's do an onion tart. And at first the play was kind of I want to do a play on French onion soup. Like that was my flavor profile. And then I kind of contrast into this tart. And I swear everybody loved that thing. And in my opinion, I thought that sometimes some dishes are going to be a huge hit. And I was like, maybe I'm taking the easy way out in this onion tart. I don't know, but I'm going to just put it on. And lo and behold, here we are talking about it.
I can live on that tart and the pork belly for sure.
Yeah, it goes to being simplicity. I love that word. I don't try to overthink so many things because I feel like once you start really thinking about it, you overthink it. And then you start putting too much into each thing. And then it's too much. Everything gets lost. So that was like on a whim dish. But now it's staying because everyone loves it.
So you are playing with a lot of different ingredients. And I'm curious, what is your latest ingredient obsession?
I'm going to have to say this new vegetable called cauliflower. It's a hybrid broccolini cauliflower had a baby. It's beautiful.
Really?
Yeah, it's
green as well.
Vibrant green stems with these little floral white, like small little things of cauliflower on the. It goes with our sturgeon dish right now. Beautiful. It's really unique.
I don't think I ever had it, so I have to try it.
So you have to come back for dinner.
Absolutely. You were talking before about, the iconic chef that didn't have access to what you have now today in the kitchen. So I'm curious, what is your favorite kitchen equipment that you cannot live without? And of course, please don't talk about the knives and think about beyond that.
For me personally, I think, I don't know where I would be without my pasta machine. Honestly, that and a Vitamix.
Okay.
I think my pasta machine and Vitamix. Who doesn't like fresh pasta?
So you have a special formula for pasta?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow.
I've been making fresh pasta my whole life. My grandmother is 100% Italian. There's a picture we have. I must be 4 or 5 and just pasta hanging all over my arms. I mean, a fond memory of sitting in her kitchen with flour everywhere and just pasta everywhere. My whole family is so into food. It's really cool.
I'm smiling in my head at the moment because I'm thinking about the people listening. We are in New Jersey, and I'm talking someone who's a background from Italy, so kind of a cliche.
Yeah, I know, right? We're everywhere.
Pretty interesting.
We're everywhere.
Your restaurant, White Birch, is open like how many months now?
5 months.
5 months, so it's recent. Opening a restaurant obviously is a very complex, approach and could be very stressful. So what are the tips that you can give to young chefs that are embarking into a project maybe or interested into the restaurant business?
I'll be 35 and I have 2 restaurants now. I'm very blessed with the support that I have. To me, without support through friends and family, it's very hard. I've have such an amazing support group. When you open up a restaurant, you really put your heart and soul into it. And it does take time. It's not for everybody. A lot of people think that they can do it. The percentage of restaurants that open and close within the first year is beyond high. It's a huge risk. It's not just a risk on your personal life. It's a risk of your family's life, everything. It's time consuming. So my advice to anybody who would want to open up a restaurant, be passionate. Take pride in what you do. Like really. And if you're going to do it, go for it. Don't hold back anything. I know I've never held anything back. As I said, I think that you learn from failure. And I can't tell you how many times I failed in the kitchen over and over and over again. But I use that. I use that now that I'm older of learning what not to do. I think that is so important when you open up a restaurant, and be patient. Like when you got to be patient because it takes time. I know it's a cliche saying. My father said Rome wasn't built in a day. It took me 8 months to open this. But, when I put this sign up, people were like, oh, new restaurant opening up. Well, a lot of work goes into it. It's not just put up a sign, open the doors. You got to wait for other people. The town gets involved. You got to hire the right people. I was supposed to open up a week before I really opened up. But in my heart, I just know we weren't ready. And I extended it 1 more week. And I think if I opened that week prior, we would not be where we're at today, because you really only have one shot at a first impression. You got to knock it out of the park. You got to make sure all your ducks are lined up. Got to make sure you have great people working for you. Don't just hire people. Really invest in your team. People think I got here because of how hard I worked, and I worked hard. I worked very hard, but I was always paying attention, not just on my station. I was always looking around, always my head on a swivel, constantly trying to learn, constantly asking questions.
So when you say invest in the people, like the team that you have, how do you do that? What's your leadership, style, and how do you coach them?
I approach everyone like an adult, and I'm very real. At the end of the day, this is a business, but I want to make sure people are happy here. I create an atmosphere of family. I really do. I grew up in a strong family. I have a strong family now. I always said, you're giving your time away from your family for me. I'm going to invest in you. Again, I just don't hire people. All my servers have to take tests quarterly about the menu. It's our main goal for anybody who walks through our doors to have the best experience that they could possibly have in this industry. And I need people to provide that. And I think that my servers are top notch. I think my cooks are great. People now, it's tough to find great cooks and help. And some people get desperate and just want to hire people. But knowledge to me is power in here. Like, you got to know. I mean, you can just hire anybody off the street, throw a knife in their hand, they have no clue. Well, and that's okay. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but you can tell, at least I can, within 3 hours who wants it and who doesn't, who's just here for a job. And that's fine. Everyone has to work. But I like to hire future chefs, people who want to be in this industry for life. And I think when you can find that in people and you can coach them your way and guide them, it shows a lot about who you are as a person to take the time. Because like I said, I had great executive chefs, but sometimes I've had even better sous chefs teaching me. It's tough to go up to an executive chef when you're a young kid and be intimidated. You lean on your sous chefs to help you through this stuff. And I had great mentors who taught me a lot of stuff. And when I had the opportunity to open Slamwich, I knew I was ready because of Troy Gard. All the things he taught me, I just knew it. When we opened that, it was the most frightening thing because all the pockets were emptied. Everything I had went into it, and it's a risk, and the reward is great.
So let's talk about Slamwich Scratch Kitchen in Madison, New Jersey. Nice. I was able to say it. So it's interesting concepts because it's really described as a delicatessen, and everything there is homemade. And so you have from the cured pastrami to the house bread and the pickles. And you had a lot of award and critic choices, for lunch in 16, 17, and 18.
Three-peat.
So can you tell us a little bit of this, the concept of Slamwich?
I went from working to some of the best restaurants in fine dining to taking a couple steps back to open Slamwich. Our definition of Slamwich is fine dining on a roll. Still took the cooking techniques and the quality of ingredients to Slamwich, but put it on a roll. And I'm one who looks at ingredients a little bit different. I remember specifically at my uncle's restaurant getting roasted peppers in a jar. And I was like, why can't you just roast your own pepper? What's the big deal? Put it over fire, steam it, and peel it. Done. Yeah, it takes a little time, but you're doing it yourself. You get that real charred flavor. I'm always one that says, if you could do it, do it. When we opened up Slamwich, it was great. Everything was made from scratch, and the prep was a lot to teach people. But you know what? It made it so unique because I wanted to bring that old Jewish style delicatessen back. These big companies came around like Thumann's and Boar's Head. I hate to say it, people got lazy. People if I don't have to do it and I just get it shipped to me, why not? I think it's lazy. I think if you can do it and do it better, why wouldn't you?
So you do your sausages and
everything. We house ground all our own burgers. My business partner, George Braun, down there was a butcher by trade for 17 years. So in that aspect, how lucky am I as a chef? I get it. My business partner, my friend, I have an in-house butcher. This guy can break down anything. Big smoker down there. It's a lot of work, but like I said, people really recognize the effort down there. And if you guys get a chance, check, just our pickle alone. You could jar that up and sell it anywhere. You can. But I think working really hard in the fine dining, then I had my first son. I kind of wanted to be around more. Then I met my wife, and she actually helped me open the restaurant, which was really cool. And you start having kids, and you want to be home. So the hours were kind of better, but I still always had that niche of fine dining. It was 4 years. I was and I had this opportunity now to have both places. It's corny, but it's a dream come true.
So how, from let's say a concept standpoint, how do you approach opening a place like Slamwich compared to, White Birch?
Slamwich is definitely more low-key, fun, funky, cool atmosphere. Let loose, let your hair down, and have fun and eat. Not as stressful, to be honest with you. Like I said, it was fun. You're constantly creating these crazy, wild sandwiches where then, your attention to detail kind of went into just the food aspect of it. We have paper cups down there, plastic cups. It was we have these Slamwich sodas that we make and stuff. So it's I don't want to say it was easier because it wasn't. It was just different. Kind of was this very similar to when I was growing up cooking for my uncle. But again, it was in more depth of that creating side of it, of homemade bread every day. It's still when I go down there, we make the bread, pulling it out of the oven. It's still just memorizing of looking at this homemade bread. It just is. So then we're in July, it'll be 4 years Slamwich. So then I'm not going to lie. When I opened White Birch, when we started working in the kitchen, I was rusty. And I was telling him, I was whoa. I was I need to really acknowledge what I have going on here. And I took a couple steps back. And over the next couple of weeks, I processed what was really happening. You can process all you want, but when these doors open, it's go time. And I'll never forget the first night at White Birch, that rush came back. When you have, Slamwich is unbelievable. I love it. It's my baby. White Birch, the same thing. I love them both just equally, but they're two different concepts. Definitely White Birch is attention to detail all the way. From the glasses to the shared plates to the silverware, picking everything out. When we did Slamwich, it was click some baskets for the fries. It was simple. But here, everything had to go. Everything had to flow. Definitely in-depth, more detail for sure.
So let's take an example. I would like to pick up your brain, and maybe you can give some inspiration to home cooks that are, listening to the podcast. Let's take a common ingredients and cauliflower. And how can a home cook innovate with cauliflower at home? What would be your suggestion how, people can prepare it?
Yeah, cauliflower is definitely a very versatile vegetable. Obviously, a lot of people eat it raw, crudo style. You could take it as we do at White Birch. You cut a real thick piece and marinate it in herbs and olive oil and grill it as a cauliflower steak. You can eat it raw and put it in a food processor and make cauliflower couscous and add some golden raisins, parsley, lemon, kind of make it like a nice couscous salad, but with cauliflower instead of the grain. You can also substitute it with potatoes instead of mashed potatoes. You could do mashed cauliflower. Obviously, it makes amazing soup. Cauliflower is great. I love it. And my kids love it. Again, like I said, very versatile vegetable.
So when you say that you can make it and use it as an ingredient in a soup, how would you come up with the whole recipe? What will be the other ingredients involved?
So cauliflower is obviously white. So anything, if you add a darker vegetable, could change the color. So, if you're going to do a soup, you might want to add white onion, garlic, it's white vegetable, some herbs, vegetable stock. Obviously, you could put everything in a pot and bring it to a boil, and that will give it one flavor. But if you end up roasting it in the oven, that brings out even more depth of the flavor. What we like to do, I like to do a nice roasted cauliflower soup. It's like off-white. The color's, not as pleasing, but the flavor, unbelievable. So, chop up some onions, some garlic, sweat that in some olive oil and some herbs. Roast your cauliflower in the oven. When that's done, add your vegetable stock, season it to taste, blend away, eat it up.
Very cool. So, Chef, we have been talking here for almost like 45 minutes. So I have now 5 rapid fire questions for you.
On the fly. Here we go.
On the fly. So where do you eat in the area where you're off the clock?
Where do I eat?
And not at home, when you can get away from, with your wife, away from the kids.
Well, me and my wife definitely try to go out to eat at some nice restaurants once a month. But when we're at home, we actually eat a lot of Thai food.
But outside of home, any other restaurant that you can talk about?
Actually, we ate at Jockey Hollow not too long ago, James on Main 2 weeks ago. And actually, we're going back to Jockey Hollow in 2 weeks for a CBD dinner.
Oh, wow.
So we'll be on there.
Give me 3 dishes that you could not live without cooking or eating.
Spaghetti meatballs.
Are you Italian?
Yes. Kibasi. The third one, I'm probably going to say a charcuterie board. Couldn't live without cured meat. As you can see, I like my salt content.
So you have the Flavor Bible book, on the table here in front of us. Beside this, what are your, let's say, 2 other favorite cookbook?
White Heat by Marco Pierre White. And I would probably say Letters to a Young Chef by Daniel Boulud.
What do you like the most in being a chef?
The most I like about being a chef, a couple of things. Definitely creativity, and really the people who you come across in your life, good, bad, and indifferent. I've come a long way. I've met so many different types of people. It takes a unique person, and I've met definitely some characters, as I could be one as well. I'm sure people could say that about me as well.
And what do you like the least in being a chef?
There's actually not much I don't like. If anything, it's probably being away from my kids. Time. I wish I could have some time back, but I signed up for this years ago.
Last question. What is your favorite Ballpark snack?
Gotta go with a hot dog. Hot dog, spicy mustard and onion.
Very good. Thank you, Chef. Thank you for being on the show. I really am glad that you had some time to spend with us.
Thank you so much, man. A pleasure being here.
Thank you for listening today. No worries if you were not able to write down some information that our guest was talking about, because you can find all of those in the episode show note on flavorsunknown.com. If you have suggestions about who would be great to have as a guest on the show, please answer the question in the comment section of the contact page on the website flavorsunknown.com. I will do my best to contact them and try to see if I can get them on the show. I see you in 2 weeks. And until then, remember that people who love to eat are always the best people.
Thanks for listening to Flavors Unknown. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave a review. Find the show notes at flavorsunknown.com. And if you want to join the Flavors Unknown community, search Flavors Unknown on Instagram and Twitter.